Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2023 animated video game film, the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, the Super Mario Brothers movie was one of the biggest hits of 2023, and honestly, one of the most financially successful animated films of all time, and definitely the most successful video game movie ever made. A lot of people celebrate it as a huge, massive win. And I just look at it as just another generic animated kids movie that just happens to have Mario in it. That's just me personally. I definitely wouldn't say that I was a massive fan of this movie, but I definitely would not say that I didn't like it either. Like it's a movie that I thought was all right. It was enjoyable enough for what it was. It's a film that definitely has some very bright and colorful and incredible visuals. It's a movie that has some elements and some moments in it that I really loved, especially as a fan of the games. There's just a lot of other things about it that either I was indifferent about or I didn't really care for. And before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on the Super Mario Brothers movie, I would like to give a special shout out to Kevin for requesting this review. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I'll try to get your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, the Super Mario Brothers movie is directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic. Now, these two guys were co-creators and directors of a handful of episodes of Teen Titans Go. In fact, one of the directors actually directed the Teen Titans Go movie, and I hate that show. I really despise Teen Titans Go. I'm a huge fan of the original Teen Titans show, and I feel Teen Titans Go is an embarrassment. It's a slap in the face to the original series. And to me, it's the television and cartoon equivalent of brain rot. That being said, these two directors didn't do a bad job with this movie. They did a much better job directing this than they did anything involving Teen Titans Go. Uh, this is a pretty solid film from a directorial standpoint. I'm not blaming the directors for the lack of a compelling plot and characters. That is on the screenwriters. Uh, the directors are really the ones responsible for the visuals, for the style of the film, for the camera work. And when it comes to all three of those things, I think for the most part, they got a high score. I mean, they really did showcase some genuine talent here, especially when it comes to the way that they utilized various different types of camera angles and perspectives that really did give this a very wide open, large cinematic size and scope to it. It didn't just feel like you were watching people playing the game. Like there were some moments like that, but then as the film went on, it expanded more with the camera work and it got more and more ambitious and epic. And I really liked that aspect of this film. I love the way that they shot the scenes that were as if you're watching some gameplay. Like when you see Mario and Luigi going through Brooklyn trying to get to that plumbing job. It's almost as if you're watching somebody playing a Mario game in terms of the platforming and the jumping and going through all the obstacles and everything. And then that continues with the training sequence with Mario and Peach, but this time it's more open in terms of the camera work. It's not just like this one shot that looks like you're just watching somebody play a game, or play a level of the game, it's expanded now to more POV shots, to more camera work that's like spinning around or following Mario or following Peach, or top down shots. And then you see a combination of both when it comes to the last sequence like that with Donkey Kong and Mario near the end of the movie. And I love that. I love those scenes. Those are honestly some of my favorite scenes in the film, and honestly some of my favorite scenes that I've seen in any video game movie to date. And I think there's a lot of other moments where the direction shines. The Rainbow Road chase sequence, for instance, really well shot, really well directed sequence. And there's just a lot about it visually, even from the very opening frame with Bowser and the penguins, and also even with Luigi and the mansion and Dry Bones and all this other stuff that really does show some serious talent, some serious uh, uh, mastery of direction for the realm of animation. So this was, in my opinion, really good. And I think a big part of why I like the movie, even though I'm not as big of a fan of the script, is because of the direction and the visuals. The wide shots, especially of the Mushroom Kingdom and of various other parts of the Mario world, are, no pun intended, genuinely super. So I feel that the direction is definitely a big highlight, major win for this film. But the screenplay by Matthew Fogel, the same guy who was behind the story of Lego Movie 2, which honestly is one of the more disappointing animated films in recent memory, because the Lego Movie is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. Uh, that's not a good sign when you got a guy who was a part of that disappointment. And then he did the Minions movie, Rise of Gru, which I never saw because I can't stand the Minions and I don't really care for the Despicable Me movies. And that's probably a big reason why he got the script, is because it was an Illumination film, and so Minions was this huge hit. Uh, so that's probably a big reason why he wound up getting the job. But this guy also wrote Big Mamas, Like Father, Like Son. Remember that one? Remember the Big Mama's House 3, which is surprisingly so much worse than the second movie, and is honestly one of the worst comedy sequels out there. Yeah, the same guy who wrote that piece of crap wrote the Mario movie. I don't know if that was really a good idea to give that guy the job just because, oh, he wrote Minions: The Rise of Gru, and it was a huge hit for the studio. Like, maybe he could have like reached out to some other people or had another writer on board or something, because this honestly just seems like he wrote this in his sleep. Other than throwing in different references to the games and different callbacks, it really does seem like any effort outside of that is very minimal. And I think a lot of it might have been, oh, hey, it's a kids movie. Kids aren't really going to care that much about the characterization or the strength of the plot, or any of that. Like, it's a kids movie and it's Mario. They just go see it and have a bunch of bright flashing colors on the screen, and, have Mario characters and Mario music, and they'll love it. And that's technically true, but that doesn't mean you have to be so lazy about it. Doesn't mean you have to be so uninspired with your plot and with your script. I mean, it opens up in a similar way to the 1993 film. It's kind of funny how this Mario movie rips off some elements of the 1993 film, because the 1993 film is considered by a lot of Mario fans, video game fans, to be absolute garbage. I'm not one of them. In fact, I prefer that one over this one. But, like, you have the whole thing where, oh, they wind up going into the new realm, into the alternate dimension because they answer a call, uh, in the city in Brooklyn, because a pipe burst, and they go over there and they're working on it, and then they wind up falling into a portal into another dimension. It's literally the same way that the Mario Brothers wound up in Dino Hatton in the 1993 film, but this time they just wind up in a warp tube and they fall into Mario's world, the world of the video game, the Mushroom Kingdom and Bowser's realm and all of that other stuff. So I just find that to be kind of funny, to be honest. Like, oh, it's literally the same way that they wind up in this new dimension. It is different in some ways in terms of the way that it actually shows that Mario has a full family. It's not just his brother, but because of that, you really don't have as much of a focus on the brotherly dynamic as I really think the script should have had. It's the Super Mario Brothers movie, and yeah, they did the commercial together, and they went out on their first job, and there is that element, but you don't really see the brothers have a lot of growth together or moments where they're kind of butting heads and then they come to an agreement, or they really learn to respect each other and love each other even more through adversity. Like, you don't really get any of that, which is really disappointing because it's the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I didn't really feel like there was enough of that. And I think that's something that's very sorely lacking. It kind of makes the movie kind of feel like it doesn't have as a big of a heart to it as I really think it should have. The whole stuff with Bowser and him trying to get married to Princess Peach, I did not give a crap about that at all. That did nothing for me as a subplot. I didn't find it to be funny. I didn't find it to be interesting. I don't know if it's from the game or not. If it is, I can't really say that I have any experience with it because it's probably from a game that I don't remember ever playing. But I just didn't really feel that it added that much to the movie. A lot of people love it. I don't really think it is anything that's really as charming or as funny or as interesting as people made it out to be. It suffers from a lot of the same issues that other Illumination films do that I've seen. It's very much something that is trying to be as cookie cutter as possible. So you're not taking too many risks. And that's why stuff like the Luma Star is honestly one of the biggest standout moments of the film and of the script, is because it actually is taking some risks. This star that's depressed and suicidal, and it winds up having arguably the funniest moments of the movie because of that, because it's such a contrast compared to the cotton candy colors and the kaleidoscope nature of the Mario world. And to have that star, be the way that it is, it creates a pretty nice contrast. You have the opening of the movie that it establishes Bowser, in my opinion, is a decent, formidable enough threat, but because of the way that he's written, I don't know, I never really bought him as that big of a threat. uh, uh, Even though he gets the star and he's willing and ready to destroy the Mushroom Kingdom and sacrifice all these people. Like, I never really thought he was ever going to succeed. I never really thought that he stood much of a chance. I mean, he's so thick-headed, he doesn't even use the star. He had all these opportunities, all these moments to use the star before Luigi and Mario do at the end, and he never did. And then he winds up paying for it in the end because Luigi and Mario kick his ass. There's a lot about it that's just way too quick in terms of the way that stuff is playing out throughout the story. Like I wanted it to slow down. Like stop speed running against yourself. Like slow down so you can really get to know the characters more. So you can really get to be more immersed in this world. But no, it just keeps going honestly almost at a breakneck speed through all these different worlds and through all these different parts of this dimension. So you have Bowser's world, and then you have the Mushroom Kingdom, and then you have the monk, the Donkey Kong world, Monkey World or whatever it is. I'm not an expert on Mario games or Donkey Kong. So I don't know exactly what the name of is it Kong City. I have no idea. But you just get little bits and pieces, little glimpses of these things, and they never really resonate that much with you because they just go from one world to the next and never really spend that much time. And I feel that was a mistake. I know it's almost as if this movie was intended to be longer than it is, but then Nintendo came along and Universal and Illumination were like, "Hey, you got to chop out like 10 to 15 minutes. This has to be like an hour and 30 something minutes long. Can't be any longer than that." But I have a script here that's like supposed to be like 105 minutes. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter. Cut something or make stuff faster. And I don't really feel it needed that kind of boost. It honestly made the film more boring to me and more slow, surprisingly enough. Like I got to like the 45-minute mark and I was starting to look at I was just starting to get bored with it. And like that's not good in a movie that's like an hour and a half, an hour and 20 something minutes without the end credits. I think a good chunk of it is because we don't spend enough time in these worlds. We don't spend enough time with these characters. And oh, just because they're in the movie isn't enough for me to consistently be engaged. I'm sorry. And it doesn't help either that one of the Mario brothers is just held captive for the majority of the film and is doing nothing in the Ouija. Because we can't have the princess getting rescued again because that's too controversial apparently, which I call bullshit on that, but it is what it is. I think they managed to work around it enough, but I think it would have worked better, like I said, if you had more scenes with Mario and Luigi bonding prior to that particular event where Luigi is captured and then Mario has to save him, then I think there might have been more to that. But as it is, you barely get to know them. They have this misadventure with the dog and the plumbing job that goes wrong, and then they wind up getting sucked into these warp tubes and they get separated, and then you have the stuff with Toad and Peach and Mario, but the writing is just so underdeveloped when it comes to the dynamic between those characters as well. Uh, it doesn't really feel like the change that the characters make. Like Mario at first is really annoyed by Toad, and then later on is like best buds. What happened in between? What led to that? Same thing with Peach and Mario. There's some friction between the two, and then it's just resolved super quickly off screen. And now she's super sweet to him and kind to him. And it was just like, where is the middle parts of this? It's just like we go from point A to point C, but there's no point B. It's just it's almost that he used a cheat code for characterization. And I don't really think that was a good idea. It's very much the kind of comedy that you expect from a kids movie, other than the Luma Star stuff. So a lot of it is just very bland and boring, boring comedy that's not funny, or it's just the kind of comedy where like, well, that there was a joke there, or comedy that's like, oh, hey, it's a reference to the game. It's funny because they they the Toads, they bought a Nintendo and they're talking about blowing the cartridge in order for it to work. Like, isn't that funny? And like, where's the joke other than, oh, they bought a Nintendo? That's not funny to me. So there's a lot of stuff like that, comedy wise as well, that's very weak in terms of the writing. Or just having Jack Black do Jack Black stuff, which to be honest to me hasn't been funny in years. I know a lot of people love the Peaches song. I thought it was completely forgettable. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't really feel it was anything different than what I've seen Jack Black do a million times. He's doing another pretty bad rip off of Meatloaf again. Okay, cool. If I want to hear that kind of singing, I'll just actually listen to Meatloaf. The script is also something where it just feels like there's a lot of stuff that happens, but it seems to only happen so you can just move on to the next level. And it's not really happening because it's something that is growth for the characters. It's another thing that just makes the film very generic, bland, and safe, and just nothing more than adequate when it could have been above average or great. Like you could have had a genuine superstar of a script, but instead, like you just get like, okay, maybe like one little, mushroom, and that's it. And then it wears off like super fast. Like it doesn't, it could really use some power ups. Even like the ending is like, okay, they fight Bowser in Brooklyn, like a million other movies in terms of the heroes fighting the bad guy in a city. They wind up defeating Bowser when Mario and Luigi get the superstar, and that's a really, I think called a superstar, or there's the star, but they get the star, and it's a really crowd pleasing moment. As a fan of those two characters, I loved that scene. Like I still honestly get a lot out of that sequence. I just wish that that entire sequence was coupled together with a better script overall. And there's themes of like Mario feeling lonely and Mario feeling like he's worthless or he's too small and stuff like that is definitely mentioned and carried on throughout the movie, and some stuff about family. I have this stuff with Donkey Kong and Mario talking about their fathers, but then we just move on really quick, and Donkey Kong and Mario get out of the whale, and then Donkey Kong is back to acting like a dick, which is another problem that I had with the script. Is like I really hated how they wrote Donkey Kong. Like he's just a this donkey dick. That's really what he was. I did not care for the way they wrote that character. I would have rather had more scenes fleshing out the characters and building the dynamic between Mario and Peach or Mario and Toad or these other characters instead of the stuff with the Kongs. There's just a lot about it story-wise and script-wise that is just not on the same level as other things involved with the movie. And I know some people say, "Oh, it's overblown. You're being too harsh." I disagree. Like kids movies don't need to be so lazy when it comes to their writing and their characters and the plot. Just because it's a kids movie doesn't really mean it's an excuse for lazy writing to me. But I just wish it had a better script. That's really the main thing that holds this film back the most. Is I just wish it had a better screenplay. The voice cast, it's another thing about the movie that is just kind of there for me. Chris Pratt, he's not awful, but he's not amazing. He's not great. He definitely is very inconsistent with his Brooklyn accent. Like, what the hell was that? Like, every now and then he would have a tinge of an accent, and then it would just be gone. I would rather him not even have an accent at all if he's just going to have a little tinge of an accent at the end of maybe a handful of lines throughout the movie. Uh, Chris Pratt, I definitely felt he was a lot better in the Lego movie and some of these other films that he was involved with in terms of voiceover work. This was just honestly the type of thing where, oh, he's a star, so let's give him the job. And he did the best he could, but I just don't really feel that he was necessarily the right guy for it. It's kind of like what is going on with him voicing other iconic characters like Garfield recently. Like, okay, it seems like you're just throwing a name out there, not necessarily giving the best possible actor, voice actor for the role. Let's just throw Chris Pratt in there because he's a name. Anya Taylor-Joy, though, I thought she was honestly a genuine delight. Like I really enjoyed her performance as Princess Peach. I would probably say out of the entire voice cast, she was the best one for me. She fit the role well. I enjoyed her performance. I liked the way Peach was written for the most part. I think that was like honestly the most interesting character in the entire movie. So she had more to work with. So I think that might be kind of why her performance stands out the most. But yeah, I thought she did a really good job. And I felt she had some as much chemistry as she possibly could have with the other voice actors. Charlie Day is Luigi. I like Charlie Day, and he's fine, but it's not really, in my opinion, like a great or a grand performance by him. And he's just kind of being the same type of character he's been in almost everything. Kind of similar to Chris Pratt again. He's kind of doing the same stuff, but just a different movie. Jack Black as Bowser, he is trying more to differentiate this performance from his usual shtick and his usual fare, but he still falls into the same stuff. This wedding is gonna rock. And just this same school of rock stuff that he's been doing for decades. I I thought it was okay. A lot of people loved the performance. I'm just one of those. I was like, it's all right. He does an okay job. Keegan-Michael Key, I liked his Toad. He definitely worked hard to make the character his own, which I definitely did notice and I definitely did appreciate. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, awful. What are we doing? I'm a big fan of DK. I love Donkey Kong. I hate hearing Seth Rogen's voice out of Donkey Kong. Like Seth Rogen's laugh out of Donkey Kong. Oh God. Like I just it's just an obnoxious voiceover performance. He made Donkey Kong into a character that I want to put in a barrel and drop off Niagara Falls. Like, or put him in a barrel, fill it full of dynamite, and blow his furry ass to Kingdom Come. Because I could not stand Seth Rogen in this movie. Just like I could not stand Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong. I like Fred Armisen, but this is one of his worst things that he's ever done. Like, this is just bad. Like, really, really bad. Even people who like the movie more than I do, for the most part, agree that Fred Armisen was awful as Cranky Kong. He didn't sound cranky. He just sounded mildly irritating, or and like he had a cold for some reason. Like he had allergies. Maybe you need to change your name to Allegra Kong and go get some Allegra and clear up your sinuses. Maybe you wouldn't be so cranky. Sebastian Maniscalco as Spike. Honestly, I could not tell the difference between him and Charlie Day half the time. I thought that it was Charlie Day just doing a accent. That's how much of an impression that voiceover performance left on me. And then you got like Kevin Michael Richardson, who plays Kamek, who's just doing a Peter Lorre impression. He even admitted that. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't working for me. I know a lot of people like Kamek too. I didn't really care for Kamek either. I thought Kamek was annoying too. It was an annoying voiceover performance because it's just, let me do a stale old Peter Lorre impression that's been done a million times. Now you also have Charles Martinet, who voiced Mario and Luigi in the Mario games. He has a little cameo, which was fun.
and some other voice actors and actresses who voice and do different characters throughout the movie, who, do all right, decent enough jobs. So the voice cast in a lot of ways is pretty much the same as the movie. It's just kind of in the middle. And it's got some nice cinematography for an animated film. The editing by Eric Osmond at points is a bit too frenetic, but for the most part, I think it's a well edited movie, especially when it comes to the action sequences and the moments that involve a lot of spectacle and a lot of things going on. But I do feel that there's a little too much slow mo, and I don't know if that's due to the editing or due to the director, but yeah, there's too much of that. The music by Brian Tyler, when it's not doing a remixed version of music from the game, it's forgettable. When it's doing souped up new versions of video game music, it's incredible. So it's one of those scores where you're like, man, this music for the game sounds spectacular. So Brian Tyler nailed it when it comes to that. But when it comes to the other stuff, it just sounds like stuff that you've heard a million times. But for the most part, a lot of the score though is video game music. So I would say it's a good score. The songs that they use for the film though, that's honestly a huge whiff for me. Uh I really don't know what they were thinking. They just picked a random playlist. Why is Take on Me in the Donkey Kong scene while they're riding around the cart? Why is that there? It doesn't seem like it's there for any other reason. Oh, it's an 80s song and it sounds upbeat, so throw it in there. Why do we need to have AC/DC's Thunderstruck again? I've heard that a million times. I'm so tired of hearing that song. And No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Like, okay, it makes sense in the context of the scene, but that's another song that's been done to death, especially in the same year because it was also in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I just felt like the licensed songs that they chose were lazy and uninspired and been there, done that a million times, nothing new. The opening bit with the Kill Bill music, like, we haven't seen a parody of that. Definitely would have liked to have had better music. I mean, none of the songs they picked for this were anywhere near as good as Roxette's Almost Unreal from Super Mario Brothers, the 1993 film. But yeah, this is a movie that, hey, as a building block to a major franchise, it's decent enough. As a kids movie, it's all right. But even as a kids movie and even as a decent building block, I think there's better video game movies like this that have already been made, like Sonic the Hedgehog. I think that's a much better movie than this. And so is the second film. I haven't seen the third one yet, but I'm pretty sure I would wind up liking it more than this. Because this is just, this in a lot of ways is very much candy. Oh, hey, it's bright and colorful. Doesn't really stay with you that much. It's like, oh, I'll get a sugar rush, but then it wears off, and then that's it. That's what this movie is. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Super Mario Brothers movie. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.